Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. In this ever-changing, complicated world, for a young person, determining what they want to be when they grow up is also partnered with who they want to be and how to get there. But fortunately, there's a wonderful organization to help. I'm delighted to be joined by Clay Mitchell, the State Director of SkillsUSA. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Maria.
All right, SkillsUSA obviously has a vast array of things that they offer young people in determining, what course they want to take in their lives. But I don't even think I could list them if I actually had a half hour to be able to do that individually. So in a general way, what does SkillsUSA do?
So SkillsUSA is a career technical student organization. So that's a nice education jargon that talks about how do we help students make quality decisions for careers and what do they need to do to get there so they can be successful in life. So that's what we do in the classroom.
Okay, but specifically there are some arenas that you do like to focus on.
Yes, industrial technology education, another education term, which is the old, back in the 50s and 60s when they did this, it was the things that the boys typically did. And so it was carpentry and plumbing and those sorts of things, those kinds of skills. Now we've expanded that to include culinary arts, speech, healthcare. There's a lot of different areas that we work in through SkillsUSA and help provide leadership training for those students and help them make good choices so they can be successful.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I found so interesting. It's not just actually the skills that you need technologically or technically or just tangibly to do, but also how to be a leader and how to have confidence in yourself and some of the things that are more ephemeral, I would think, when it comes to these sort of things.
Sure. I mean, we are a partnership with business and industry. It's not educators just doing education for the sake of education. So we partner with business and industry, and those business and industry people tell us about what they need. And one of the things we hear the most today through these advisory committees that we have with business partners is we need people who can show up to work on time, that can be ethical, that can be honest, that can do a good job at the workplace. And if you give us that, we can do the rest of it. And of course, the other part of it is drug testing and those sorts of things in California, which has become a real challenge lately.
So you begin with, I would say, middle school students, do you not?
We do. Mm-hmm. Middle school students, high school students, and college post-secondary students. Largest organization in the nation with SkillsUSA. We have more middle school students than any other state in the United States. We have more high school students and more college post-secondary folks. So it is a growing organization, and we work real hard to make sure that we reach as many students as possible. Even with our size, we have the potential to serve over 500,000 students in the state of California. So.
All right, well, SkillsUSA has been around for a long time. And it didn't start being known as SkillsUSA.
No, it was Vocational Industrial Clubs of America, VICA. So there may be some folks in the audience that remember VICA, and we're members of VICA. And then we made the change because it's no longer a club activity. It's not something that takes place outside of the classroom. It's something that takes place during the class time as well. And so we made the switch to SkillsUSA many years ago and changed that because we know now that if we're not reaching them in the classroom and teaching them those skills about ethics and honesty and all those workforce elements, that it's not going to make a difference when they finally get to the workplace.
You mentioned, obviously, the change in the name, and then you also mentioned the change in some of the programs. But, I mean, seriously, things are rapidly changing on a daily basis. So the dramatic shifts that I would imagine your organization has to take in order to keep up have been pretty profound.
Absolutely. VICA was founded when it started, and we used to have the VICA Olympics, which are competitions, and it was designed after the Olympics, quite honestly, and so students had an opportunity to perform. Now we do the Olympics. We don't call them the Olympics anymore. We have national conferences, leadership and skill conferences, and so in doing that, we've changed the focus on not a competition as much as having business and industry partners assess the students and their skills and abilities. So we develop our contests or our projects, as we call them, in cooperation with business and industry, and then we have business and industry professionals come and evaluate the students' skills in those events.
Okay, I really want to hear how this works. So, I mean, I'm kind of seeing it in my head as sort of a science fair, what we used to have when we were in elementary school. But legitimately, what happens? So you are going to have this big you're going to have this big conference, and everybody's going to come, and you're going to have these people from professional realms and industry. So what are the youth doing in front of them, and what actually is happening?
So the business and industry partners develop contests or projects, as I was mentioning before. And we have everybody from Toyota to 3M to Haas, people from business and industries that are looking for our products, which are our students. And so they come to an event. The California event is about 3,200 students. Wow. And the national event is about 8,000 students, because they take the gold medalists from all over the nation to go to that. And they get together. It takes about 3 to 5 days to set up. There's about 15,000 volunteers that come together to actually set up those projects. And then the students show up. They have an orientation put on by those business partners. They come in, they have their time slot, and they perform whatever skill or task that they have set up from business and industry with their knowledge and their skill set.
So the students, are they paired together, or are they put together, or are they individually? We
have team sports, and we have team activities, and we have individual activities. Sorry about my sports there for a moment.
That's okay. You're from that background. We'll get there in a sec.
There you go. And one of the things I think about when I became state director was that, we have football games, and we have things that we do. We have drama, and we have theater, and we have choral performances, and lots of things in our schools, and our parents come and watch that. And so one of the things that I think would really be good in the future, and this is where we started 9 years ago, is have parents come out and see their students do plumbing. Have their parents come out and see them do culinary arts and those things that they learn in class, but realistically, they never have a chance to see them perform in. And this gives them that opportunity through our conferences.
All right, so I'm going to backtrack just a little bit because of the fact that you jumped into your sports allusion, because that's really where you became involved with SkillsUSA. So your road to becoming state director is probably not one you anticipated taking.
No, it isn't. It's not the traditional career path when you look at it. I started in high school, had the good fortune to have an athletic trainer, decided I wanted to go into sports medicine early on, was going to go to college to do that. Had an opportunity to go to a community college at the time. They were junior colleges, and took that and moved into professional sports and did those as an athletic trainer in sports medicine. But whatever career you're in, you're always doing some form of teaching. And so when I was working through a clinic one time, there was an opportunity to be a teacher at an ROP, which I took up, and then moved into administration. And they saw a need for someone at the state level to oversee some ROP programs and career technical education programs, so I moved there. And one of the things that falls under the Department of Education is the state director for these organizations. And so I had the opportunity to become the state director for SkillsUSA. And it was a great opportunity, a lot of challenges, but as you know, we've grown from 3,200 students to over 41,000 in the past 9 years. So we've done some good things.
And what do you attest that growth to? Do you think there's an awareness that young people need to maybe broaden their horizons in regards to what it is that's out there? Is it through your good work? Is it through just understanding what's happening out there and how to address the needs of these people? I mean, why so much change in such a short time?
Well, it's a team effort. It's certainly not through my good work.
Go ahead and take a little credit.
It's good to be in the role. But certainly the state of California and the local districts have seen that there's a need to develop all students. And one of the things, when you look at academics, I always said, if you're going to school for academics, what's the end result? You want to get a job. Right. And so career and technical education is another part of that education process that helps train in those specific areas, no matter what career you want to go into, and give them an experience and an opportunity to explore that. And so we looked at the state when I got to the state level, and we really, as I mentioned before, have the potential to serve over 500,000 students. So while we have grown to 41,000, we have nowhere tapped into our potential from a state perspective. A lot of it had to do with funding. In the state of California, we put out over $1 billion in the past 7 years to support career and technical education programs in our state. And so through that funding and the focus on trying to give students whole experiences, not just for folks going to college. And by the way, many of these careers require you to go to college. And so it's not an either or situation. And that was one of the things we try to emphasize too, is you may become a plumber, you may become an auto mechanic or whatever it is, or chef, but you still have to go and do some post-secondary education to do that. And the jobs pay just as much and many times more in those career areas than it does for a college educated individual.
I think that's one of the nice things about hearing about a program like this is because, that obviously education is imperative. And I think we've established that very clearly with our children, grandchildren, etc. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that every child fits into the same slot. And being able to offer them a vast array of opportunity is something that maybe we have forgotten in that process of teaching them that education is so important. But this seems to be a really nice partnership between the two, in which you don't have to look like the person sitting next to you in regards to what your career path is.
That's true. And I'm a prime example of that. I mean, I went to school to become a sports medicine individual, and here I am working in education and leading an organization. And so students need to experience a lot of opportunities to make a quality decision. And I think that's the challenge that they have. I went to school in junior college. I left and went into the world of work, in the world of sports medicine. It wasn't until later that I came back and finished my college degree, because I decided that was something I wanted to do. But when I came back to school, most of the people that went to the school that I went to become sports medicine specialists, who came right out of high school, no longer work in the sports medicine field. They're doing something totally different because they didn't have an opportunity to experience other things as they were going through school, I think. And so they got the education part out of the way, but then they went into a totally different field, because many times they would, for example, we had people that would go into nursing programs, and they didn't realize till they actually went and did their internships that they didn't like blood. And so that's a major challenge for them.
Yeah, that's a bit of a challenge.
And so I think through the ROPs and the career tech ed programs in our schools, that gives those students an opportunity to experience those things early on so they can make quality choices, and SkillsUSA is part of that process.
Well, along with the educational institutions that you're working with, I imagine you can't do any of this without partners literally in the corporate world.
Absolutely. Yeah, corporate sponsors are a huge piece of our success, not only from resources financially, but from the equipment that they have, to the support that they have through their professionals working with us, and providing that advisory capacity to help us form our programs at the local level so that we're teaching things that are real world. We want to make sure that the students are working with equipment and things so when they go into the business and industry, they'll understand what that is.
Are there internships?
There are internships. Almost all of our programs have internships. It's part of the career tech ed world in the state of California, making sure that students not only do classroom activities, but get out into the business area. Now, some schools don't do that, and that's okay too. In those cases, we look to business and industry to provide the school with that equipment, because many of those pieces of equipment are extremely expensive and would be a big burden on our educational system.
How are you finding your students, and how are your students finding you?
Word of mouth. We do a lot of promotion. We have websites and those sorts of things. Very similar to this. Yeah, get the word out so that people know we're there. We invite people to come to our events. Certainly, that's a big piece of it as well, and really have reached out to the parents. Parents help make decisions for students going to school. I mean, we're not ignorant to that fact. And many parents, if you talk to them, say, "Oh, my child's going to college," and that's a great thing. But if they can see some of the opportunities that students have through the career tech ed world and through SkillsUSA, many times that'll help them make some choices that'll get them there. So obviously we do the websites, we do the conferences and those sorts of things. We not only have a national conference, there's a World Skills event as well, where all the nations participate with their young adults, showcasing their skills in the different areas that we have in SkillsUSA.
We have a lot to talk about because, you talk about these conferences and about membership and where people can participate, but I want to hear more, but we're going to have to take a short break, and we'll come back and chat some more.
Great.
Welcome back. Clay and I are delighted now to be joined by Loretta Caballudao, who is the State Membership and Chapter Coordinator. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so Clay and I were just very lightly touching on the whole idea of these conferences, the state conferences, the national conferences, the international conferences. They sound very exciting for a young person to be able to participate in, especially people who may not have ever had that opportunity to go anywhere or do anything.
Absolutely. That is one of the highlights of a high schooler's experience is to be able to travel outside of their school area and join us at conferences, our state conferences in Ontario, California, and they really get to see more of California and see that it's not just their school, but there's a big world out there for them.
I imagine that makes a nice community amongst anyone who participates in SkillsUSA.
Absolutely. One of the things that I enjoyed as a student was learning that I had things in common with other people outside of my school, that I wasn't the only one who was interested in pursuing a career right out of high school. And so it did provide me a community that I embraced, and I to this day consider it like my alma mater.
Okay, now we actually have to qualify that, because you just didn't decide to start a job right outside of high school. You bought your own business at 19. You actually bought a graphics business at 19. That is phenomenal. Are you going to give it all credit to your participation in VICA at the time and now SkillsUSA?
To be honest, I didn't know that it was phenomenal at the time. I was ambitious. I was well trained by my instructor in the printing industry as in a beginner sense. I was well trained by the VICA and SkillsUSA as a state officer. Mm-hmm. I was able to experience a lot of opportunities to work with business and industry, to become a great communicator, and I loved doing what I did, which was to design and print anything for clients. So between the training I received and the motivation I had, it just seemed natural for me to pursue entrepreneurship at an early age.
So Clay, how did you woo her back?
You know, the organization brings people back. Once you're a part of us, as we say, you never go away. And so it was an opportunity. We were doing our 50th anniversary and looking for an alumni folks prior to that. And sure enough, put the word out there, and Loretta showed up. And she got the Alumni of the Year award, which was what she really deserved. But at the same time, it was kind of that little nudge to say, hey, we could really use your help in the organization again. And she was at a place that it worked out. So we're great to have her back.
So now you're in that place in which you're bringing new people in, kind of, you know, sharing the messaging and kind of re-enthusiasting, there's no such word, just sort of getting people involved again. So what is it that you say to people or young people or parents or anyone that might be interested now in being part of SkillsUSA?
As a membership coordinator, I have the opportunity to speak with a lot of advisors or incoming advisors, teachers, administrators. And what I say to them is that this is an opportunity for them to bring quality content to all of their students, not just ones that want to compete. That only serves a small percentage of their students. But SkillsUSA is really there to bring in a curriculum called Career Essentials, which is a job readiness curriculum, and we do that through building skills in personal, workplace, and technical skills. We call it the SkillsUSA framework. So it really starts there with getting the advisors and administrators on board. And whenever I have the opportunity to talk to a student's parent or guardian, mm-hmm. I like to celebrate that their student has chosen this as a path, that there is way more opportunities out there than just one direction, which in most cases you hear college is that direction. And when a student says, but I want to be a carpenter or I want to be a chef, I celebrate that as if it was the same and it is equal to the other opportunities.
Such a huge need. I mean, I think we forget all of the things that we need in order to progress as a civilization and to have, you know, a good life and good lifestyles and all of these areas that may not be focused on anymore. I bet you hear wonderful stories from those youth that participate.
I do. Talking to the students is the reason what keeps me coming back. After volunteering for 7 years before I came on staff, every year it was that one or two students that would come to me and say, you know, Mrs. C, this was the best experience I've ever had, and they would tell me why, and then I would be like, that's why I'm going to come back next year and serve this organization, because I see that there's hope in our young students that are trying to think ahead and be ready for a career. And there's such a huge need, especially here in California. There's a big skills gap, and we want to lead the way in bridging that.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations, and I know you're a great role model. We've got lots more to talk about, but we'll be right back. Welcome back. Clay and I are delighted now to be joined by an alum of SkillsUSA, and a very talented one at that, Brian Gillespie. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Just fine.
Good. Okay, you gifted me with something pretty cool, and hopefully maybe you can see it. It's a little pin, says California, and it's something that you brought back from one of the conferences.
The National Convention from this
bet.
year, yes. I attended the National Convention, and for a different reason this year, because they awarded me the Alumni of the Year award. And I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know until I got a phone call from your previous guest, Lori, saying, you know, there's a good chance they may want you for this, so I'm going to submit your name, and then you're going to do this. And then I said, well, Lori, you're always submitting my name for something, you know. But she says, this might be a good thing, and then Clay actually got involved, and then it happened. They voted me in, and yes, it's one of those things where I was voted California's Alumni of the year before, and then I went on and got it nationally. And so I feel maybe I'm doing something good.
You are doing something good, and let's go ahead and walk that journey with you very slightly. So you, as an alum, you went straight out of one of the programs into a full-time gig in broadcasting, which you have been enormously successful in, and then you got a phone call to help out. But it wasn't necessarily in broadcasting that you were asked to help out in.
I was asked to help out in the media arts program, and I got a lot of phone calls, I'm going to be honest with you, from the same person. And we went round and round. I said, look, you know, I'd love to come back and help, but I just don't know. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or if it's right. And then she said, Brian, I just come and check it out, please, because we have our media arts program, which is composed of broadcast news, audio, radio, television, video, and also digital cinema. All four of those are all independent contests that actually happen within media arts. And so all the students, they study each one of those programs and then come to the, you know, the regionals and the state convention and then finally the national convention. And they said, well, you can come in and chair all those because we need for you to come in and help us put it all back together, make it so that it's competitive on a national level. Right now we're kind of having some problems. So I said, okay, I'll check it out.
But didn't you first judge crime scene investigation?
How'd you find? Yes, I did. It was completely by, good research, very good.
Well,
It was completely by accident. It was kind of tragic. The judges for that particular contest got into an accident. The three highway patrolmen they had coming in got into an accident. And they said, Brian, you've judged almost every contest. Or go on down there. You could be helpful. I said, we're talking CSI. I don't know anything about it. Go on down there, talk to the guy in charge. You'll probably do just fine in there. And then I asked Clay, I said, Clay, can I go and be with this? No, you can't go be with CSI now. You got to stay with media arts. And no, it was a lot of fun and it was great. But yes, that did happen and I had a great time.
Okay, well, along those lines, I'm sure the highway patrolmen are fine?
They're fine.
Okay, good. But normally, and this is what happens in particular here in Los Angeles, the LAPD is a good partner with you when it comes to that kind of...
Absolutely. Yeah, we were behind the 8 ball again last year and reached out to the LAPD, and they graciously said, sure, we can send a couple officers down on about a week's notice. And so they showed up, set up the event, and looked at me and said, so what are we supposed to do? And I said, what you do in the real world. We're doing crime scene investigation, set up a scenario. You've got about 12 teams coming to visit you. You reset it and make it go. And they said, give us 15 minutes. They made it happen. They asked if they could come to state, which they've done a great job, and they're coming back again this year. And We have firefighters that assist from LA as well. So there's a lot of connections to the LA area with regards to our competitive events and the support that's provided by the business and industry community.
Right, and a shining beacon of that, jumping from crime to media, I don't know where that line draws, but you have had a remarkable career, as I said, straight out of school into ABC, all along the lines in an enormous array of different parts of the industry that changes on a second-by-second basis.
What interested me as a child was, I think, just broadcasting in general. My first field trip, believe it or not, that I ever went on was to KTLA here in Los Angeles. And they took me there and they took me to the stages and everything. And on the way, the guy who was walking us around the lot, I saw the remote truck out there. And I said, man, that's really cool. What is that? Well, I'm like, oh, that's just a remote truck. Let's go this way. So I kind of stayed back and I started talking to the guys and they showed me the tape machines and all that other stuff. And that was it. I was sold. I said, I got to get into broadcasting. And I just learned, I got in, I took my, well, I'm going to do this because it's a plug. I took my VICA leadership training and I took it to a new level. I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I've learned and the ability to be able to talk to people and, you know, put my hand out and shake their hands and be able to look them in the eye and tell them what I'm trying to say. And I said, I'm going to do that. And I took it and I said, I want to do this in broadcasting. So I learned about instant replay. I learned about maintenance repair. I learned about the cameras. And then I went on to become one of the supervisors over at Fox on Fox Sports.
Well, you've taken the whole idea of instant replay and kind of elevated it. And it's a fascinating realm because it happens momentarily and it's getting faster and faster and faster. And I'm always thinking of those poor editors in the booth and how are they actually pulling that tape so fast and how are they getting it up? But you have actually created an instant replay, what would you call it?
System?
System. What is it?
Well, you hit on something there that was actually pretty interesting when I first came up with the idea a lot of years ago, but I couldn't because the mechanics just wasn't there. The ability to do it was just very bulky and it didn't work. But now that we've got computers and this and that and Wi-Fi and, you know, Bluetooth and all this stuff, it's become a lot easier. But what we did was, you're right, they are in the truck and they do have a lot of work to do and it does take a lot of time. But there's another side to replay nobody thinks about, and this is where I got into it, was what about all the time it takes making the decision? What about all the time it takes while the fan is still sitting there, you know, at the live games or at home, and they just reach up and go, I can't take this. I'm going to reach up and hit the remote and go to another channel. Maybe I'll come back when it's all done. Or you just get up and walk in the room. Or there's just all this delay in sports because of replay and having to go back to Bethesda and do this all. I said, why don't we bring replay back home and let the referees have their own replay?
Wow.
So I designed and developed a replay system so that the referee themselves can have the actual camera shots on their arm so that they can go back to the play they just called instantly, look at it and go, yep, I made the right call. Or, I kind of screwed that one up. Okay, sorry.
Don't tell anybody.
Well, I sorry guys, I pull up my yellow flag and, you know, so in less than 30 seconds, you can have all this.
And they're wearing it. It's not the little thing they're looking in.
Nope, got it right here, like right here on your sleeve.
Okay, so along those lines, the entrepreneurial spirit that you have, the inventiveness, and obviously the background in your relationships, what are you telling all the young people that you're being introduced to in the whole realm of media arts? Stay on top of it, keep moving forward, never sit back, it's going to change tomorrow?
That's kind of the message. The message really is you got to learn it from the ground up. There's no easy way to do it. And when I say that, and when I talk to the students and I have the judges and we have a little thing where we can actually sit and talk with the kids and, should I say students, not kids, students, sorry. But we actually talk with the students after the contest and before the contest, and we tell them what we do and we tell them how maybe if you have any questions, how we can help you along the way as far as getting into the business and what we did to get into the business and what you can kind of, you know, do to get into the business as well. A lot of them just think you can just walk right in and it's going to happen. It doesn't happen that way. And to try and convince them of that is very difficult sometimes. So we try to help them understand, here's how it works, here's what you have to do, get into the leadership side of the skills program, also do what you can to learn, you know, the skills side and everything you can. And when you combine the two, then you're going to have the best opportunity in the world to get into any type of the media arts you really want to, whether it's in front of the camera or behind.
Wow. Well, I just see someone like Brian being magnified across the entire system, and I can't imagine how lucky the youth are that participate in SkillsUSA. So congratulations. All right, so if you want to learn more about SkillsUSA, it's really easy. You just log on to SkillsUSACA.org, and I want to thank you both for being with me, and Loretta as well.
Our pleasure. Thank
Okay.
It was great.
Take
Thank you.
care.